Hey YouTube, how's it going? My name is Oliver and this is the Stat Channel. This video is an introduction to the channel and hopefully by the end of it you'll have an idea of what we're going to cover going forward. So a little bit about me first. I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to undergrad at UChicago where I majored in economics, and then I went to med school at Tulane down in New Orleans. I'm currently a resident in anesthesiology in New York City, and I have myriad interests outside of medicine, including finance, programming, and the economics of healthcare. I've been trading options since I was practically in diapers. Most of my friends and colleagues have repeatedly asked me to share my knowledge of finance, options, and especially strategies, and some have even had me help them manage their money. Being a resident in the hospital leaves precious little time to pursue interests outside of medicine. But fortunately, I had some downtime during COVID, and I realized that there was no better time for me to get out there and share my knowledge and passion for learning with the rest of the world. This is my first video on YouTube, and I'm really excited to get out there and share my knowledge, but also to learn from you. I'd like to give a brief overview of some of the topics that we'll be covering as I add more videos. Please like and subscribe if any of these videos interest you. The priority of the channel will be finance related, but we're going to cover a lot of different things. Maybe you've heard of some of these topics before, but have no idea what they mean or where they fit in the broader scope. Maybe you're like me and you have been trading for ages, but only read about credit default swaps in the newspaper and would like to learn more about what they actually are or why someone would use them in the first place. We also review programming, how to set up a website online, but not just any website, a web application with a front end. In other words, the user experience and design features of the website, but also the back end or the database or payment processing. We'll also demonstrate how to pull your favorite stock quotes right to your desktop or your web app using an API. You may have heard of APIs before, but basically they're application programming interfaces. They allow you to seamlessly get data from websites like YouTube or Thinkorswim or Robinhood or Twitter. Basically, you get to pull information from those sites with just a few lines of code. We'll implement a web app with real users, real data, and even real-time stock data. Then we'll move on to creating an algorithmic trading site with rules that we define, and you'll develop the skills to define whatever rules you would like to do as well by the end of this. And we're going to do all of this using readily available APIs, or application programming interfaces. Lastly, we'll sprinkle in some videos on healthcare topics such as the economics of medicine, the future direction of healthcare, and the impact that sweeping consolidation across the board will have on the doctor-patient relationship. To give you a brief taste of what we'll cover in the finance section, we'll be talking about forwards, futures, interest rates. We'll even delve into futures on interest rates. Then we'll get into options. We'll talk about what they are, how they're traded, how they're priced, and then more advanced option strategies. Getting into options pricing models as well. So we'll talk about kind of conceptually how you would go about thinking how to price an option. We'll get into binomial trees, martingales. We'll talk about the Black-Scholes, the famous Black-Scholes pricing model, which is incidentally what inspired me to get into options in the first place. We'll talk about the Greeks, gamma, theta, delta. We'll talk about what each of them mean and how they play into the price of the option at the end of the day. We'll discuss things you've probably only heard of, like volatility smiles, and maybe you've heard of contango with the recent oil price drop into the negative territory for the first time in ever. We'll talk about the mechanics of options markets. We'll move into swaps, credit derivatives, and then we'll finish with some exotic options. We'll discuss how those are priced, how you would even go about pricing something that you come up with in your head. And then we'll move on to some interesting things like energy and commodity derivatives. We'll move into programming as well. As I mentioned previously, we'll do some back-end coding, some front-end coding, and we'll discuss what back-end, front-end even mean. For me personally, I like JavaScript, so we're going to do it entirely in JavaScript. But if you want to try it in Python or Ruby or whatever. I'll explain as we go how to seamlessly code it in, like, say, Ruby on Rails, or Django for Python. And then lastly, like I mentioned, we'll have a lot of videos on healthcare as well, specifically the economics of healthcare, which I find to be a very interesting topic. And with that, I look forward to taking a really exciting journey with you, and I hope that these topics have piqued your interest. And if so, I'd ask that you like and subscribe, and hopefully we can create a really great resource together. Thank you.